How can you hear me? Pretty good or no? Or
Yep.
oh,
Yep.
if Chris is in there, should I let her in or no?
You can, yeah, just let, Tommy's not there, is he?
Oh, I presume it's Tommy. I don't know.
She's in the waiting room.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. She just said she's in the waiting room, so I said, I'll just tell her to stand by.
Yeah.
Um,
I've never done this before. It freaks me a little bit.
oh, well, we'll see what happens. If we get Todd, we're good. The other thing crashes and burns, it crashes. You're recording right now, right?
I am?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Cause
Oh, then we're just going to bring Tommy in. The guy can bench press a Volvo, so hopefully he doesn't start crying when this goes on, but it should be good. But he's a huge fan, so.
Okay, what role shall I play in this?
You can
I
just
think
say,
what we'll
the
do,
guy.
Todd, if it's okay, I'll put you in the waiting room for a second. I'll bring him on. We'll talk for a couple of seconds, and then I'll bring you back out. Hopefully he'll cry. That's our goal, is to have him cry, break down and cry, and then we're going to kick him off, and we'll carry on talking.
Okay, cool. So Tommy's his name, right?
Yeah.
Tommy, yeah. Thanks so much.
Okay,
He's
sure.
a huge fan, though. Seriously, a huge fan.
All right, right on.
All right, 1 second, please.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, so I'm going to figure out all right. Okay,
All right. So far, so good.
we're so nice. We're really nice.
I know we are. And this is recording too. We got to put this whole thing on. This whole thing's got to go on, and it's got to go on tonight.
Hey, that's not Tommy. That's his girlfriend, Krista.
Where's Tommy?
I gotta go find him. Hold on.
Hi,
my
Dave. He's John.
Hold on.
And I think our friend might not be in the waiting room,
Oh,
but I could be
He
wrong.
is.
Okay, I just saw something else.
No, we're good.
hold on.
Okay.
Oh, he's drawing. Hang on. Tommy.
Hi.
Hey. Remember you're supposed to talk to Steve Gates right now? Yeah. Well, Sean and Dave are gonna be with you. Barstools and Bandtalk. Sean.
Oh,
You thought the other Sean.
Tommy boy,
Sorry, Sean McKenna.
hey, what's up?
how are you, bro?
Good, man.
So I tell you what we're gonna do here, my friend. We're gonna bring Steve in,
Sure.
and then we can only do this for about a minute because I got to bounce. You know, I'm going to Fredericton, but we can only do this for a minute. So
Okay.
when we bring Steve in, we want you to ask the first question. All right?
Oh, yeah, no problem. Hold on a second.
They're practicing for tomorrow night.
Let's see where it goes.
Okay, sounds good, man.
All right.
What's going on? Yeah.
So we'll just see what happens here.
No way.
Say hi to Steve.
That's, oh my God, that's not Steve. Hey, Todd.
What's going on?
All right, Tommy, you got one question, then we got to bounce.
What?
You got
What?
you got one question, then we got to bounce.
I don't.
Where are you, man?
Todd? What's that?
Where are you?
I'm in my house.
Oh, you guys in Halifax?
Shit.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Oh my God, Todd. I live in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada.
You
Are
can
you-
just Halifax. I've been there. I know where it is.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Drum clinic there in like 2011 or 2013 or something like that.
For
Yeah,
a clinic, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a. No, friggin', that's
Were you
not-
there? Were you at the clinic?
No, I was playing, but I wanted to go. Oh my God, Todd! Wow.
All right. So guess what?
I'm sorry, I don't know what to say.
We
Well,
want
that's-
you to either cry or ask a sophisticated question. Yeah, that's your options, really. So.
Sophisticated question. No, oh my God, no, Todd, man. There's no questions for sure. I just want to say thank you for. I don't know what to say. Thank you for everything, man. I've been a fan of yours for, oh my God, 2 decades, I believe. You've
But
been my favorite.
not big enough a fan for you to blow off your gig and come to my clinic, though, right?
Yes.
I was
love it.
thinking
I
the
love
same thing. I'm glad Todd said it. I was like,
That's awesome.
man.
No, Todd, Oh my God, this was so, I don't know what to say, man. No,
Well, yeah,
that's awesome. Because what's
I
that?
remember that night in Halifax very well. And I know ended up going out and running into the guy. Who's the guy that? What's the big TV show? The big Canadian TV show. The guy's in Halifax.
Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah.
Yes.
We ran into that guy, the Pearl drum guy. I was with, knew him, was friends with him, so I had a drink with him. Went out, was hammered and got pizza. And then that whole drum clinic. Maybe there should be a story for the actual thing we talk about. But it was called the No Sleep Till Halifax Drum Clinic Tour.
There you go. Yeah.
That's awesome.
If you want to ask me about that, we can talk about that on the
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So you guys got him on, because I remember I requested, it's like, you got to get Todd on, right? Because he'll inspire a lot of people, and here he is, man. That's awesome. I don't know. What
So
no,
We're not crying. I'll let you cry, Tommy. We're going to talk to Todd, but anyhow. Listen,
yeah,
I know
no,
you're a big-
of course. Oh my
I
God.
know you're a big fan of his, and you mentioned his name 1,000 times on our show. So
Yeah,
this is your opportunity
no.
to say hi. And
My girlfriend's here. That's my hero,
I
right
know.
there.
Yeah, there you go.
that's cool. That's
Thank you so much. Wow.
All right. So we're gonna go do this, and hopefully you're happy with it.
Oh no, very good. I can't
All
wait
right,
for
bud.
this. Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks.
Todd. Wow.
Stay safe, all right?
Take care, man. Thank you. Oh my God.
I'll end it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We'll get off. Wait. Oh my gosh.
Todd, I don't care if the rest of this nosedives. You're a wonderful human being for doing that, my friend.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, man.
Yeah, you made his night for sure.
It's his birthday too, eh,
nothing-
Sean? Is it his birthday?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
No.
Wait, do you say something about my birthday?
Is it your birthday?
No, but Ron Danette just called me 10 minutes ago saying happy birthday, and apparently there's some shit online that it's my birthday. And I'm like, where's this coming from? My birthday was May 2nd. Unless I'm in a time warp or like now I'm 52.
Are you saying we shouldn't consult with Wikipedia for a list of questions here?
Well,
They're actually correct.
Okay, because I want to start, I guess, in the now and kind of work our way back. Your solo album that came out a few months ago. I happened to be on Blabbermouth when it was released, and I loved your press release that you did on it. And I'll paraphrase, but it was more or less like, who the heck do you think you are that all of a sudden you're going to sing? And it was obviously a lot longer than that. I clicked on the video, and I was like, okay, come on. A great drummer, now you can sing. Like, is there anything you don't do well? Like, am I going to go to your house and all the pictures are crooked, or like, what's the deal?
Well, there's a lot of things that need straightening up in here. Believe me, no one was more surprised than I that this project took the turn that it did. And if it wasn't for the belief of a dear old friend of mine, J.K. Harrison, who'd been hounding me to do a record like this with him for quite some time, and I always blew him off with the notion that it's, gee, it's cute. You think that I could do this? Thank you, but no thanks. And he kept after me, and he kept after me, and finally, there's a convergence of a couple things that all just hit, including having a week with a lot of time in Los Angeles. So I figured, well, let's get together with my old pal. At the very least, we'll have a couple drinks, we'll have a bunch of laughs, and what the hell, we'll see what happens. And within 2 days, it was like, by the second day, we'd written the song "Last Flight Home" back and forth in like a lightning round in like 30 minutes. And I thought, holy smokes, we kind of have something here. All I have to do is get out of my own way and let this organically grow. And the fact that I would be singing terrified me. It intrigued me. It excited me, but it also was absolutely bone-chillingly terrifying. And I thought, that's what I need to be doing, not playing fusion stuff and playing around kicks and playing drum solo stuff. Let's do something that terrifies me. And as difficult as playing fusion music might be, trying to write great melodies and great lyrics, in my book, is a much more difficult task. So that's, it might not excite the musos as much, but for the most part, I'd rather listen to While My Guitar Gently Weeps over some gnarly fusion thing in 15, 16 time.
Right now.
Well, and I'll tell you, Todd, and I'm a drummer myself, so we'll get a little geeky in a couple minutes. But my first thought was, gee, you know what? He's in a band called Styx, and a couple okay singers in that band. Like, did you get any feedback from those guys when it
No.
came out? Not at all.
Well, it came out, post pandemic, really. So I didn't have them. Lawrence was the only one. He heard a couple things, but being in a band's kind of a weird thing. When you do other things, it's kind of like, well, that's your time.
Yeah.
It's not totally the Band of Brothers where we all check each other's other things out that we do. We do a little bit, but it's not like any one of us probably sat there with any of our other stuff and sat there and gave it the full once over. And that's all right. That's how bands sort of the living, breathing organism that it is. But I know that they've all heard it, and I've seen comments on posts and whatnot, but I haven't had any like discussions with anybody about it, and nor did I seek any of their help, because I did this whole project under cover of darkness, really, because there was part of me that didn't believe that I was actually going to go through with it. So even my mother didn't know I was doing it.
Well, hey, that's cool. If you can keep it from your mother, you're doing okay, my friend.
Well, she doesn't live with me, so it's a little easier.
There you go.
Or I
Fair
don't live
enough.
with her, rather. Well, either way. So yeah, I didn't really announce it to many people at all that I was doing this thing, in the event that in the 11th hour I decided, for whatever reason, I'm not doing this. I left myself an out, where I wouldn't have to answer for it.
Well, I liked it. I thought it was great. I can't say I was surprised, but you don't strike me as the type of guy that's going to put out something that's no good. But I was surprised in the fact that I, obviously had never seen or heard you sing before. So I thought it was great.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, no, you're a Berkeley grad, right? So
One year.
1 year?
Well, even in that year, I'm sure it's a pretty enhanced program. So it wouldn't have been all drumming all the time. It probably would have been incorporations of melody and music and interactions, I'm pretty sure. Would it be or no?
Yeah, but I wouldn't credit Berklee College of Music for having much of a influence on what ended up being on that record. I would credit, the amount of hours I spent listening to music with particularly good melodies and lyrics, and having the luck and the joy and the good fortune of working with someone who basically I craps Mona Lisas on command on every instrument, and I couldn't have worked with someone better. And the fact that we've been friends for so long, I could metaphorically stand naked in front of him with a microphone and have it not be very good, and not immediately feel self-conscious or embarrassed, or any of the litany of things that can start creeping into your mind, especially if you're having a moment of difficulty, how that could sort of feel like you're just digging your own grave. So I think I was, the luckiest guy in the world in that regard. But I like hearing what other people hear in the music insofar as influences, and I've heard a wide range of everything from late 70s Genesis to Peter Gabriel to the Beatles to Jellyfish and XTC, which are Beatle derivative at times, to Alan Parsons, to The Cure, to Brian Wilson. And those are all legitimate things, because those are all things that I have spent a lot of time listening to and studying. So I think that has more to do with it than singing solfege and ear training class at Berklee for 1 year, just to get through that so I could get to the drum set,
Mm-hmm. So with that regard, Todd, so I did a little, research on you, and obviously, and you had a great, I'm on your Facebook feed, great picture of your dad playing the drums, and doctor/jazz drummer. That you couldn't have, possibly two harder professions to have, right? But when you were coming up, how much did you practice, and how much do you still practice?
Two very different answers to two very different questions. As far as the upbringing goes, being the youngest in a musical family was really the greatest card I was dealt in life because music was a major topic of discussion. There was always music coming out of someone's bedroom or in the kitchen or in the living room, and whether it was, Beethoven or Chicago or Kiss or Led Zeppelin or Miles Davis or Count Basie, there was always music happening. And having two older brothers, 5 and 7 years older respectively, I got to be the benefit of them coming home with records from their older friends and their older musician friends. Like, I'm 10 years old and I'm listening to the Jean-Luc Ponty record that Steve Smith played on that changed my life. Or, my brother Joel coming home with Genesis Seconds Out and seeing that album cover with the lights going down. Like, what's that? Who are those guys? So I had that benefit. And I also had the benefit of growing up with a rhythm section. Both my brothers, they played bass and keyboards. So we would go for a swim or throw a ball around. We'd go and we'd play music. My dad, started teaching me how to read music when I was about 6, 7 years old. And it was something that I always wanted to do. I never felt like I was wasting my time doing it, but I was never like the 8 hours a day super guy. I think there's a law of diminishing returns at a certain point. And as I got older and wiser, it came down to realizing that it's more about quality time than quantity of time. You could just put in headphones and bash around the records for 6 hours, and what did you learn? Not a damn thing. But if you sit there and you suck for a half hour and you're trying to play things that you don't know, or you're not very good at, or feel like you're throwing a ball with your left arm, that's something that's very uncomfortable, now you're getting somewhere. Right. That's what you have to do. If you sound great all the time when you're practicing, I just read this, when you sound great all the time when you're practicing, then you're not getting any better. You're just reciting things that you can already do. So that's when I say, if you're organized and you only have an hour, you can spend 10 minutes on this or 15 minutes on this idea, 15 minutes on this. Do that every day and then see where you are in like 10 days to 2 weeks. You're going to be better. That's how you do it. But most people don't realize that. Most people, they shy away when something's hard. They don't really figure it out. They go, I'll get back to it later. They never do. And they just play, which is fine. But you're not going to get to the next level just doing that.
Well, what would be next for you now? Because that's the same philosophy now, Todd, taking a solo album and singing on it, which is totally out of your comfort level at the sounds of it. You challenge yourself as a musician. So what's next for you?
I don't know. And I like that, because a year and a half ago, I wouldn't have believed that I would have my own record with me singing. I would have, what? I would have been as confused as everyone else. But here's the thing. I find that the coolest stuff happens to me if I don't care about things.
Yep.
And when an opportunity or a chance meeting or some random thing will happen, as opposed to me getting out there and doing the thing anytime that I try to hatch plans, like, okay, this is a good idea, I should do this, things seem to drift away from me, and they turn into mist. But can I swear on this show?
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. It's a safe place.
If I don't give a shit, then something like I'll get an email from Antoine Fafard saying, I saw this video of you and I have some music I'd like you to maybe play on. What do you think? And I'm going, I can't believe you even know who I am. That's amazing. Yes. So who's to say what will happen tomorrow? It could be nothing, or it could be, an email from someone out of the blue. And I like not knowing.
Can we drum geek out for a couple seconds?
Absolutely.
So
bass in the background, no big deal.
Yeah. So long before we ever found out this was happening, you go down, you're in COVID and you go down that YouTube kind of rabbit hole. And I started watching a lot of stuff that you played on, a lot of Styx, a lot of different things. And a couple things that struck me about you. I watched that, the CYO concert you guys did a number of years ago in Cleveland, which was amazing. What I found about you seem very calm when you're playing. It's almost you're thinking 2 or 3, 12, 14 bars ahead. But how you switch from traditional to match grip and you do it in weird spots. I don't know if that's just kind of what you've done, or if it's a comfort thing, or explain that to me, because sometimes you'll be ending songs and you're playing traditional grip and then you're you're playing match grip, and it's just I find it really neat.
The answer is really simple, and it's also really abstract. It's really whatever feels the best at the time, and normally it's totally consistent. If something, the verse of Blue Collar Man is always going to feel best to me playing traditional grip.
Mm-hmm.
It's always going to be that way. But the ending is always going to feel better playing match grip. So my changes, I find, are high percentile consistent, because whatever I'm playing, whatever is the groove, the density, the activity of the left hand will change what I do. And there's also certain things that not only does it feel better, but this is going to sound a little trippy, but there's certain spirits that I'm trying to evoke. And when I say that, I mean like the spirit of Tony Williams, or the spirit of Stuart Copeland, or the spirit of John Bonham, or the spirit of whatever. I don't mean that in a metaphysical sense, but I mean it in the vibe that I'm trying to make the music feel. That whatever spices, as a chef that I'm putting in, that I want it to feel that way. Doing a particular task a certain way will help me get to that spirit.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned Blue Collar Man, because one of the it was a show that you guys did that Don Felber came out. I don't know if you remember that one or not.
Well, we did a bunch of shows with Don. We did a couple tours with him, so I'm not sure which one. Is it? Anyway, he came out. It was, lots of harmonies, but I just noticed a couple of things. A friend of mine and I were watching it, and a friend who's also a drummer said the way he plays is almost like a golf swing. Like when you're hitting your cymbals, you have a very projected, like they tell you to keep your arms straight out and whatnot. Like it just, the way you were doing it was so neat, because I know I'm used to a lot of guys that are in tight, maybe not a lot of wrists or hacking at stuff, and you're just kind of really fluent the way that you're doing it. Well, that's something that I've always had to some degree, but I think in the last number of years I've really honed in on being able to do that, and part of it is being relaxed. And that's one of the things when I do my live master classes, which is, this particular program is really hard to do in a Zoom format, but back when the world was normal, I would be in a room with 20 participants, and I could grab their hands and grab their wrists and do something to their shoulder and show them something that they need to do to be able to relax. And if you're relaxed up here, which it starts here, then you're relaxed here, this goes into the body. So I can do that. And I am playing very hard, but I'm not beating the shit out of the drums. I'm not playing this, I'm not knocking the sound into the floor. I'm still hitting them hard with gusto, but relaxed, I'm trying to pull the sound out of the drums. It's a very different sound when you're doing that than when you're just beating them hard, okay? Like I've seen rock drummers play, I'm not dogging anybody, and I won't mention any names, but I've seen guys play where they hit the drums and cymbals so hard that they end up sounding smaller. The drums out front just sound like some sound pressure event, but there's no tone. And you can make 20, 22-inch cymbals sound like splash cymbals. But if you lay back a little bit, sorry, got a little text there.
It's all good.
If you're able to lay back, pull a sound out of the drums, then the drums are going to sound, they're going to sound bigger. They're going to sound more like a musical instrument than just a sound pressure thing. But my point is, in being relaxed, I had a Dr. Nadia Adir, I'm forgetting her name now because I've been in my house for months. She tests drummers and has things strapped to your chest, whatever those little meters are. What are those called? When you get a card.
The nodes. Yep.
Yeah. And I had the lowest heart rate of any drummer that she did, other than a pit band drummer, for like a Broadway show where they're sitting there doing nothing for 10 minutes at a time. So I'm like, that's exactly the results that I wanted to have. I'm still getting a workout. It's still good, but it's calm and it's relaxed, even though it is fierce. It's like if you get bitched out by a guy who is really smart and you're just really disappointed, as opposed to some guy screaming at you. You know what I mean? That's kind of the difference. It hurts more when it's coming from that place of authority. So right. I don't know, that's kind of how I think about it from behind the drums.
Well, and I mean, it's You explained about 20 years of my first life of playing, honest to God, where you're talking about, letting it come out as opposed to driving it into the floor. Because I think, myself growing up, you grow up in that kind of genre where you got to beat the shit out of everything. And technique is a distant second to, trying to look cool and, playing heavy. So that makes a ton of sense to me. But
there's real quick, I wish I could demonstrate this to you, but I can get a better
Please.
out of a drum with a stroke like this than I can swinging full stadium, even with good technique, loose technique. And it's something I demonstrate in the class, that it's a home run to center field every time right there. And I'm just using the wrist. Then I could bring in the arm, and now this is showbiz. Listen to the sound difference between showbiz and this. This is maybe 2 decibels less, but it's a bigger, fuller sound, and the drum starts to choke out. I don't care how good the drum is when you start beating it with all your might.
Okay, so we're not done with the geeky drummer crescent. So we talked to Adam from Sabian, and we're going to be talking with Mark Love. And I mentioned, we're going to have Todd on the show, and he said, ask Todd about his 22-inch ride cymbal. So I said, okay, I promise I will. So
right there it is, right there.
Yeah.
That's something that we developed over. Well, I had a prototype of that about 15 years ago, and it was a 20-inch cymbal, and I love that cymbal, but I'm really a 22 guy at heart. So I sent it to Mark and said, can you make me a 22 of this? So he made a 22, and then that was my main cymbal, a main ride cymbal outside of the band. I thought it was still a little light to play with the band, but it was such a beautiful cymbal that handled everything else that in music that I could possibly do, especially recording, and a great job. But when they wanted to do a limited edition of the cymbal, I said, well, if we're going to do this, I have to be able to use it with the band, and I think we need to add a little bit more thickness in like the 4 or 5 inches going up into the bell. So Mark and I worked together, and we did a couple runs of cymbals, and then we found the one, and that's what we have. It's called the Todd Sucherman HH Sessions Ride.
So when you're making those cymbals in context of the band that you play with, and we can say you play with Styx and you play with some other guys, and you tour with Lawrence too, right? When he's doing the solo stuff, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What do you find the hardest instrument to compete with in terms of your cymbals on stage?
Well, I'm very fortunate that I always have in-ear monitors and a monitor guy. So I relax and I let the microphones do the work. And it's not like a club situation where, I've got 2 guitarists that play sound check at level 8, and now it's the gig, and now they've cranked it up to 11. I don't have to get into the volume wars with anybody. So that hasn't really been an issue for me.
Okay. So
Tom,
can I ask?
You keep asking questions. I want to ask a few questions.
I have one more geeky question. You're running in-ears.
Fucking drummers.
So what do you have in your mix for in-ears? This fascinates me when I ask people this.
I have everybody. The drums are definitely the loudest, because that would be the perspective if I was in a room with other instruments. The drums would be the loudest because they're literally between my legs. They're right in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
So that is how I hear the music. But I have everyone in the mix. I want to hear what's going on. I want to hear if someone makes a mistake or if they have a problem, or if someone goes to the bridge and they blew off the second chorus. You know what I mean? So I have to be able to hear everybody, and then be able to react to everybody, because I'm playing music with them. Even though it's rock music, and even though it's parts to be played, it's not a jam band or improvisational jazz or whatever. I still need to hear my bandmates and be connected to what they're doing. But the drums are definitely front and center in the mix.
Fair enough. Okay, go ahead, Dave.
Thank you very much. So I have a 2-part question for you to see. We usually do like a 1-2, and he did 5 in a row. So 2-part question. Do you folks play with a click track now, or anything pre-recorded in Styx? And 2, you're not really the new guy in Styx anymore, because you've been with him for 25 years. But I'm curious if the other guys who have been in the band for a long time kind of give you some, a little bit of grief, like, hey, that's not the way John did it, or if you do things a little differently. Do you get any kind of grief or any feedback for that?
I'll answer your question in reverse. They've never told me what to play ever, even from day one. And there was never a comparison made to John, or that's what John did. It was never even brought up, not even from Chuck. So that showed me that they trusted their decision in hiring me, and they trusted me to make the correct choices all the time. And it was always a sense of freedom in that regard from the very first rehearsals on. So that was nice. As far as a click track, we never did anything with a click track up until the Mission record, which it's clicked. And that was sort of, I pushed for that because there's a lot of those songs that are kind of these slow mid-tempo things, and I wanted them to feel heavy. And this band has like a lot of bands, has a tendency to ride on top and push the tempo. And it's something that I've worked a long time in my own playing and my own playing within the band, is to try to give that quarter note a fatter value. And to some people that has the illusion that some of the songs are slower or less energetic, which is really not true. It's just, I rather, I always make this analogy, and if I sound like a gross, I'd rather make love like a man than a jackrabbit or a jackrabbit. You know what I mean? That's how I look at the tempos and the way things groove. So sometimes I do get some comments that something felt slow, and normally I kind of go, no, it was, and I'll go back and listen to it, and I'll be like, it was dead on. Or it was 144, and the record's 140. The original record's 144. Starts at 144 anyway. You know what I mean? So that's something. That's my job. I got the tempo. I got it. I got everybody. So that's the thing. But yeah, some things feel fatter and better and groovier. Like, a song like Too Much Time on My Hands really sounds like, and I want it, I just wanted to be back in greasier, because I think that's musically better. And there's no disrespect to what came before. I just think that's a better call.
And I think it just sounds fatter, heavier. I mean, it's just cooler to me when you things play too fast. I find are annoying. That's just my opinion.
When things are played too fast, that to me is, and I'm not saying that this band or any band is, but like my wife and I always talk about, like, back in the days when you could go out or used to attend a wedding and you'd hear like a wedding band play Dancing Queen, and we'd look at each other and be like, holy shit, that is way too fast. You know how friggin' slow Dancing Queen is by ABBA? Slow and sexy, walking down the street, and every wedding band, playing it faster doesn't make it rock harder. You take the sexiness away, you take the groove away, you take the fatness away. Like, you go hear a Led Zeppelin tribute band when those guys are playing on top. You're like, that's why Led Zeppelin was so great, because they played that shit so fat and in the pocket. That's the difference. Those guys, the tribute band, might be playing and singing and doing the exact same thing, but they're not putting the same amount of space between the notes.
The
and
space
now sucks.
Yeah.
It sounds like amateur hour.
Yeah.
Versus you put on Led Zeppelin, you're like, oh my God, who else sounds like this? That's why.
I had a conversation with somebody one time about Don Henley, and I said my comment about Don Henley was that he's such a hard drummer to replicate because of the way everything he plays, in my opinion, is absolutely bang on. Anybody else plays Don Henley, it doesn't sound the same. Kind of like Ringo. Anybody plays Ringo, doesn't sound the same. Obviously, they're imitating it. But I think it's got to do with the feel. I think it's got to do with their sense of what the tempo should be. And that's what I think people miss when they're just, trying to play a cover tune.
I think Don could have been, if he wasn't such a great singer and songwriter, I think that he could have been one of the great 1970s studio drummers.
Oh my, yeah.
He could have been in the mix with, Russ Kunkel and Hal Blaine and Jim Gordon and Jim Keltner and guys like that. I think that he had the time to do that. Now, I mean, again, I wasn't privy to any of those recording sessions with the Eagles, obviously, so I don't know what was entailed with how they recorded or how many edits were made or who knows. But predicated on listening to the records, I agree. And when we did this week of shows in Vegas with Don Felder, that was billed as Don Felder and Styx, and the surprise was people got to the show and we opened like there's Styx's gear. We brought Don out and we did 6 Eagle songs in the middle of our set with Don.
Very cool.
I had to play 6 of their huge hits, so I had to roll up my sleeves and really listen to what Don did, and also being that we played so many shows with Don Felder that the great Steve DeStanislaw, Stevie D, is Don's drummer, and he's a beautiful, beautiful drummer. His main gig is playing with David Gilmour, and his other gig is playing with David Crosby. And then when he's not doing any of those, he's working with Don or a few other people. So I had a good I had good drummers to think about and listen to and listen for in my own playing when approaching that material that is very unique to approach indeed.
This has been a fascinating conversation, Todd. And we were all around the same age. I think you and I, Sean, are all around the early 50, 51 age. So coming up, what genre was your preference, I guess, like in the teenage years into your early 20s? Like, what did you like to listen to or play?
I grew up with a big band jazz drummer for a father. And I grew up with a love of jazz, but I also grew up in the era of rock. 2 records I used to play, I just posted about this the other day, I used to play over and over again as literally in diapers with my Mickey Mouse record player, was Basie Plays Hefty, the Count Basie record with Sonny Payne on drums, and Chicago 2. And I would sit and I would listen to those over and over and over again. But I always intrinsically knew that if I wanted to, be a working musician, that I should be able to be diverse and be able to play all styles of music. And if you wanted to make money, like, hi, I want to play the drums, I would like to make money at this. How do I do that? Well, you're not an instant rock star. What you need to do is you need to be able to play, parties. And then you start playing weddings with, actual tuxedo musicians that are actually making a living doing this. Well, you got to be able to play bossa novas and waltzes, and you have to know a lot of tunes, standards. You're going to know how to read music, because those bands, they got a book of charts. That is all the steps to becoming a professional musician if you want to have a full schedule of being a working musician, where you don't want to do this where I sell insurance, or I friggin' tar roofs, and then on weekends I play a rock club. That never interested me. I never wanted to do anything other than this. So I looked at it as, if the more music I know, the more music I'm able to play, the more music I actually know the language of and can enjoy, that's going to help me be an employable musician.
Right.
Well, you know what, my friend, we could keep you all night. I know you when we were going back and forth setting this up,
I could give you another 15 minutes if you want.
Oh,
Sure.
well, done. That'd be fantastic. Well, then
if I can get in by my 8 o'clock to tuck my daughter in bed, that's all.
God love you.
100%. 100%.
How old are the kids?
I just one, a 6-year-old daughter.
Oh, nice. Yeah, fun age.
So you talked about Halifax when we were on there earlier, and you had been up here. On our little show, there's a bunch of people. You may or may not have known this. Lawrence Gowan used to come to Halifax back in the early 80s, and he was actually a singer in a metal band, and a lot of people are talking about the different clubs, and so he's got a real connection here. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Lawrence was never in a metal band. What
it was a theatrical type, harder rock type band.
Are you talking about the Rheingold?
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't heavy metal. They were definitely a super prog rock wearing capes and costumes and stuff like that. And I know the drum. I'm spacing on the drummer's name. You know, had the 2 rows of toms and chimes and a gong. It was like a full-on thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we're getting a lot of people talking about him, having a history in Halifax and whatnot. And now I had no idea that. Well, I did because I go into Wally McQuaid and I see the Todd Sucherman signed drumhead when you did your clinic. What do you remember about being out here other than they must have taken you to Pizza Corner by the sounds of what I heard?
Well, this whole clinic tour, I think it was 6 days, and it was with the then artist rep from Pearl Drums, again, Reg Adolf. And Reg had the schedule made by someone else at Pearl Canada, which is out of Montreal, and they booked 6 clinics in a row, but traveling from west to east. So it was like every day, it was like basically losing an hour as we traveled. Started in Vancouver, and every day it was like a 6 a.m. flight. So you're done with the clinic, and then you want to have a couple drinks with the store people, and then, oh my God, we got to go back to the hotel. We can get like 2-3 hours of sleep, wake up and go to the airport. So we did that every night, and it got to the point where we didn't even go out and have drinks with the store people. It was like we'd hit the 7-Eleven, get a 6-pack of beer, 2 ham sandwiches, go back to the Holiday Inn, whatever, microwave sandwiches, slug 3 beers each, and look at each other and go, all right, see you at the lobby in 3 hours, go to sleep. So we called it the No Sleep Until Halifax tour, because Halifax was the last clinic, and that was the first time I was going to be able to get some sleep, because I had like a 1 p.m. flight, home from there, and not a 6 a.m. flight. So as much fun as I had, it was brutal. I couldn't friggin' wait to get to Halifax. Like, my buddy Pete Stanbridge, who makes was one of the best snare drum makers in the world, if not the Stradivari of snare drum makers, who lives in St. John, Newfoundland, flew in to Halifax to hang out. So he got a hotel room in our hotel, and we did the clinic. It was a great time. We went out and hit a couple bars, ran into the guy who wrote Trailer Park Boys, who Reg knew, and then ended up having pizza somewhere. And then I don't remember how the night ended, because I think I was so exhausted. I was so happy to be going to a bed where I was going to actually get more than 2 or 3 hours of sleep to fly home. So that was a memorable clinic tour, and with a nice memorable ending in Halifax, but it's literally a blur.
So when's the next clinic tour that's going to be from Vancouver to Halifax?
I don't think, if we're ever doing again, we're definitely going to start in the east and move west. That way it can gain an hour at least.
Because we'll have to take you out for one of our world famous Donairs, and if you don't know what that is, Google it.
I have heard that before, the Donair. What?
Donair, just saying.
Yeah.
It's just goodness. So you're based out of Chicago, though, is that right?
No, it's where I'm from. I'm just outside of Austin, Texas now.
Oh, okay. Very good. Very good. Very good. I guess, go ahead, Sean. Do you have another drum?
Well, no, I was just going to say, Sean, outside of drums, big sports town there. You're a sports fan at all?
I am, but my heart still lies in Chicago as far as sports is concerned. But I've finally seen everyone win a championship, so like I'm satisfied. You know what I mean?
Yep.
The Cubs winning the World Series, that was the biggest one. That's something I literally never thought I'd see. Having lived in Chicago for Bulls Mania, except for the last year, this is when I moved to LA. That was great. The Hawks, winning a Stanley Cup. And then the '85 Bears. It's kind of like I'm kind of done with sports. I'm very fair weathered now, because I've had the experience of the wins, and I also had basically decades of losing for the most part. So I have no interest in returning to that, only to see someone win the NBA Finals when I'm 75 years old or something.
Happened in Toronto. We saw it happen in Toronto there last year.
Yeah. Well, yes, I do love sports, but it's something that I do not live my life by. This is what I live my life by, and it's way more important.
Well, you
Tom,
you said
yes, go ahead.
no. Well, you said something earlier about the practice because when you're drawing two sort of things between sports and hockey, sports and drumming, because you said if you're only doing something half-assed or you're doing something bad, you're just getting better at doing a bad thing. And I'm paraphrasing. And a lot of times with whatever sport, especially in the States, I mean, like high school sports is huge. Parents are pushing those kids practice. And I think A, they don't like what they're doing, and B, they're falling out of love with the sport. Do you see that happening with not only drums, but like music? Like parents are kind of taking that stance and forcing kids to, like the old piano teacher?
I personally haven't seen that firsthand. I'm sure it exists. But
your dad never forced you to practice, though. Your dad was a jazz drummer. Like, he never forced you to practice, so did he, or no?
no, so at worst, sometimes I'd become frustrated because after going through like several pages in the book, I was kind of done with it and I wanted to be done. And he'd say, one more page.
Hmm.
And that was it. And there'd be a bit of tension or frustration over that. But there was never a, get back in there until you can, that never existed. I mean, I had supportive parents. What I did see once with, and I'm not saying this to make it sound like I was the hero here, but I had one student of mine from the late 80s, early 90s who, like, this kid had it. This kid was great. But his family was all like bankers and lawyers, and his dad was not having anything to do with it. And a mutual friend of ours was selling a drum kit. He got into some tax trouble, and he was selling a great drum set at a great deal. And asked his dad for the money, and his dad said no. And I was maybe 21, and I lent him $500, like he had the other three. I lent him $500 so he could get that drum, because his dad was such a bummer and such a wet blanket that he couldn't see that his kid was really, really good and could be a pro, but he had a shitty drum kit, and he had a chance to get a killer kit at a fraction of the price. So I lent him the money because I knew that he was a good guy and he was going to pay me back, and he did. He worked as a movie theater usher all summer long, and saved all his money, and he paid me back. So that made me feel good to see him get his kit. So that's the only really thing that I've seen, that I witnessed, that was a bummer like that. But I'm sure it exists. I mean, actually, can I expound upon that?
Yep.
After being very, very high one night at Berklee College of Music, I became aware that everyone on this dorm floor decided that they wanted to give their life to the trumpet or the saxophone or keyboard or bass. And I did this my whole life. I always wanted to do this my whole life. I never decided to do this. I never thought, gee, you know what, I think I'm going to do this. I always played the drums. There was never any second thought. There was never any hesitation. This is what I wanted to do, always. I don't remember what it's like to not know how to do this or want to do this. And I was very high, and I started going around and I asked my friends that were in this little area, the dorm, and then I just started knocking on people's doors that I didn't really know that were on the floor. I'm like, hey, and I see that they had a keyboard or a saxophone or trombone. And I said, when did you know that you wanted to do this? And high as a kite, I stood and I listened to everybody's stories, and I heard, well, my dad was a lawyer, my mom was a doctor, and they didn't want, their kid to have a life in the arts. And I heard all these trials and tribulations that all these people went through to get to where they were now, standing in that dorm at a very expensive music school. And I found that fascinating, and that was a choice or a battle that I never had to fight.
Well, question for you as a parent now. So your daughter's 6 years old now. She picks up whatever instrument or whatever craft or whatever art or whatever she decides to do. I mean, it sounds to me like you're going to be that parent that's going to promote it, or you're going to support her, you're going to do whatever.
I mean, the best thing I could do is let her be her, and let her want to do what she wants to do, as long as it's not harming her or anyone. You know what I mean? But if If she wants to be whatever she wants to be, that's what should happen. But I never want her to feel like something's a chore. Singing is coming particularly easy for her. I mean, she's got a little drum set, she's got a little piano, she's got a little ukulele, but doesn't really know how to play them. You know, has tinkered with them, but didn't really know how to play them. But singing, she can sing. So she'll probably do that if she has, you know, as much of me in her that I think she did, because my one regret is that I didn't keep up with piano lessons. The drums came naturally. My parents made me take a couple piano lessons, and I threw a legendary tantrum saying, I don't want to do this. I want to spend my time on the drums. You know, I wish I could go back in time and would have kept it up. If someone had said, the money's in the publishing, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's funny.
So, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like I said, one of my favorite drummers I played besides Sean that I ever played with, he was, you know, a drummer, but he could play piano, and he wrote it.
Dave, you broke up there 1 second.
I'm sorry. I said, just a gentleman that I used to play with. He was a drummer, but a very talented songwriter too. And he approached his piano playing as rhythm, which it is. You know, it's a rhythm instrument. It's you're hitting a hammer on a note, whatever it is. But he played the piano like that, and his writing was so unique. So it makes like a natural bond, I guess, between piano and writing. And I understand what you're saying. If you had kept up with the lessons, it probably would have came to you even more naturally. If you think piano being a percussion instrument, right?
You know, it's just, I wish that I could play, you know, the same way that a boy would go, I wish I was an NFL quarterback, or I wish I was an astronaut, or whatever. You know, I realize it's not too late. It never is too late. But then I'm drawn back to this, going, there's still things I want to be better at. There's still things I want to have a flow at. There's certain things I want to think and be able to play or have it feel a particular way, that I know my life will be spent there.
Well, I think I'd like to wrap with this if we could, Todd. Obviously 2020 was, you know, for the most part, a complete and utter disaster for obvious reasons, and, you know, different sorts of things happen. What do you have on the go, I guess, for maybe the rest of this year, but obviously 2021 is probably looking a lot better.
Yeah, you know, the thing with having dates that were booked and put on sale and sold is that they have to be put somewhere. So management, and it's part of their job, they have to keep taking dates and moving them later and later in the year. So I'll get, you know, emails like, are you guys still playing such and such on this date? And I'm like, I don't know, probably not, but it's not my job to have a party line or cancel shows. So, I mean, I can't see us doing anything for quite some time. That's my opinion. I did record the new, what will be the upcoming Styx record here just a few weeks ago. So that will be done when it's done. There's no release date or timeline, like it'll be done when it's done. And we'll see what happens. I mean, you know, thankfully I'm doing some teaching here, and I've played on a couple records, a couple projects, and, you know, and again, sort of not caring and seeing what floats my way. We'll see what happens. But, you know, I to be totally honest, I go from absolute moments of tranquil zen and acceptance to absolute panic and a vitriolic rage that is unhealthy. And I realize I got to back this off, or I'm going to give myself a heart attack or a stroke. And I don't really want to go to a hospital right now.
Fair enough.
I think we all have those feelings, but also I realize I'm lucky. You know, I've got some room to move here. I'm not wondering how I'm going to keep the lights on next. You know, it's the acceptance of this is how it is, and now we have to somehow, as a society and as individuals, find the gift in this, find the silver linings in this.
That's right.
And then how can we come out of this time because no storm lasts forever, even though this will last longer than any of us would like. I think no storm lasts forever. And how did we conduct ourselves during this time? Can we be proud of how we spent our time? Did we learn any new skills? Did we read some books? Did we do things? Did we treat people with compassion and kindness during this time? I think that's going to be a very, very big thing on our conscious collective or collective conscious as humans, is how, when this is over, how did we do? So that's what I'm trying to dwell on, and trying to make that when I have to answer that question at some point, that I'm proud of how I conducted myself during this time.
Amen, brother. That's
perfect, Todd. I mean,
yeah,
that's exactly it. You know, it's the point, folks. It's Todd Sucherman is right there. It's the point. Did you become a better human during all this shit? Awesome.
We're gonna send you a thank you email, obviously, but if you have a business office or whatever, we want to send you one of our show mugs if we could, because it's they're a fun little thing that's kind of taken off up here in these parts, so that'd be great.
Hopefully it won't spend like 36 months in customs.
Yeah, but when you get it, it'll be worth it when you get it.
Yes.
Todd, thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah.
It's Dave and I are just
stay safe, and thanks for having me on the show, guys.
Love it. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. We mean it.
All right. Cheers.
All right. Take care, brother. All the best.